Have you ever watched a YouTube video and your fucking head exploded? Right? Have you ever like sat here and just took the time, like you had to pause the video like full times, write a comment. You know what? I'm gonna give this guy a chance and let him fucking finish his thought, right? And then I'm gonna write this fucking comment, right? And you get a little further and you go, fuck Jesus, this guy don't know what he's talking about. And then you get a little further, right? And you get on, you go make another comment. You're like, no, you know what? Let me listen to this whole video. Maybe he's gonna make sense somewhere about what he's saying, right? And then you get a little further and you go, no, right? No. And then you get like almost to the end of the video and you fucking stop and you put a comment and you write out. And I'm on my phone typing with my thumb like a 4-page comment. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna fucking make a video. You know what I'm saying? And try to correct some of this nonsense and give some evidence and some reasons as to why things happen that he says are happening, and sit here and explain basic fucking things that he doesn't. He contradicts himself in the video, and like, how does this guy have 381,000 subscribers? How the fuck does this happen when he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about? Maybe it's because he's a fucking king. Yo, look, man, we're gonna get into this shit. Let's do this.
Most people would agree that recessions are terrible things. They cause widespread fear amongst people that will be anxious about their savings, their livelihood, or even their next meal, and on a nationwide level, economic downturns are events akin to natural disasters. They do massive...
Alright, look. When there's a recession, people are concerned. And long-term being able to pay, that's what you get concerned during a fuck. And the reason why you get concerned with this is because you know that your company is going to be trying to lay off fucking and pump the stock price. That's how companies maintain through a. That's how they weather the storm, is having enough money to be able to downsizing and shrinking, becoming more efficient, trying to eliminate debt, things of this nature. So let's get this correct, and just to start with,
massive damage, and for the most part are widely accepted by society as an inevitability rather than a rarity. But do we actually need recessions? Most economic downturns are in fact entirely man-made, and are ultimately the result of people saying, you know what? I don't want to materially improve my quality of life just for a little while.
Okay, so this is where like my head fucking explodes, right? Because the truth is that today's recessions that we have, all right, like there were recessions back in the day after an earthquake, after a volcano, which he's going to get into, but today's recessions are caused by Keynesian economics, right? And you say, well, what's Keynesian economics? Well, Keynesian economics is an economic thought pattern where there's a central planning of how the currency and interest rates are going to be manipulated to be able to control the economic status of a country. All right. And there was two different schools of thought. There was Austrian economics, Keynesian economics. Keynes won because Keynes, stood here and had what was known as like a central plan type of situation. So it was more like, we can stand here and, fucking avoid all this bullshit and maintain stability. And before 1913, when they created the Fed, they had a more Austrian way of doing things, but the problem was that we still had a currency. And there's a difference between currency and money. Right, that's number one. Very, very important to understand for anybody that doesn't get this, anybody who's watching this. There's a huge difference between money and currency. All right. Money has intrinsic value. Currency is the representation of value. All right. Fiat literally translated from Roman is by decree of the king. All right. So fiat currencies, all right, are currencies that are born because a government says it's the fucking currency of the realm, because the government says that's what we're going to accept. And that's important to understand. And the reason why that's important to understand, and the reason why that's important to stand here and put out, is that these are the two big separations between the different schools of economic thought. And having Keynesianism, that means you have a central planning fucking central bank that's going to be printing money on a regular basis. And when you print money on a regular basis, you destroy the fucking money's value. When you print currency on a regular basis, you destroy the currency's value. When you destroy the currency's value, goods and services go up in price. And if you don't have a way to continue to have wages keep up with this, you end up with what most would call inflation, right? But we don't call that inflation in America because the consumer price index doesn't actually measure anything which we would look at as inflation, right? And that's important to understand. Okay, so when you have these things, now I might as well just break these charts out now while I'm here. Like legit, I might as well stand here, you know what I mean, and break these charts out while I'm, right? Because it's important for y'all to understand what's going on with, the entire, what the deal is with everything in general, right? Okay, so this here is the crude oil prices, a 70-year historic chart, right? Gotta interact with it. Okay, this is a 70-year crude oil chart, right? That shows you how crude oil has moved up and down throughout the years. Okay, now this is an important chart, okay, because what this chart does is it allows you to look at over time. Basically, we're going to look from like 1970 on, because before that, the price of crude oil stayed pretty much the same. Because after World War II, up until 1970, the whole world was on the Bretton Woods Agreement. The Bretton Woods Agreement was an agreement that we would maintain our currency at $32 an ounce of gold, which will be redeemable by all these other governments. And in 1971, 72, West Germany, France, and I think Switzerland came through and said, hey, look, we need our gold for our United States dollars. And they discovered that we had been spending money like it's going out of style, and we didn't have the gold to back it up, which ruined the Bretton Woods Agreement. We went in what's known as the petrodollar status. Now, this here is crude oil prices. Now, the important thing about crude oil prices to understand is that as crude oil prices go up, right? Like this here is 1973, 1974, right? The first spike, right? And then you have a secondary spike in 1980. And as it goes down, right, you get to be like 1985 is the very beginning of where like it's the whole way at the bottom. 1986 goes down to $31 an ounce. 1990, right, it goes back up. You know what I'm saying? It's $67. But every time this goes down, as the oil goes down, right? This is important. I know it seems ridiculous, but this is important stuff, right? As the oil goes down, you're going to have the stock market go up. Now, why is this, right? The reason is because of the fact, right? And this is something that, legitimately you have to understand there's a correlation between the two, right? So this here is stupid ad, right? This here is a historic chart for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? So as oil went, this is 1948, right? As it goes the whole way down, let's see, it had a big peak, 8, right? It goes down, it goes down, it goes down. 1980, 1982, right? It settled in. There's a why? Because oil was up at $129 a barrel. It goes up again every time it goes up, right? This is 1990, right? 1990, right in here. Oil had a big spike in 1990, and there was a recession, right? 1998, 1999, big oil spike, recession, right? 2007, there was a big oil strike, hit $142 a barrel. We were all alive for that, right? Yo, boom, back down, another recession. These are how recessions are formed without having a natural disaster behind it, okay? It isn't people going, I don't want to spend money. People going, I don't have the money to spend. When you stand here and you take something that everybody uses, say like, water oil, whatever the case might be, right? And you end up having that stand here and drag inflation. It stands here and drags actual assets and currency out of the United States pockets. They don't have consumers don't have any money to spend, right? Legit. And that's the reality of where we are, okay? So again, we get back to, here we are, all right? This is the dollar's relative value from 1980, okay? As it falls, actually, this is from 1973. Dollar's value fell, 1980. Remember we were talking about 1970, this is actually 1978, 1980, right? You remember how we were showing how like had a giant oil spike, right? In 1980? Yeah, well, guess what? It's dollar's value was garbage, right? Look at this, 1985. Dollar's value was 128, right? 128. That's when oil dropped down to like $26 a barrel, right? Again, 1990. Back down to the 80s, back down to the 80s again, right? So as your dollar goes up in value, all right, the cost of oil goes down. As your dollar goes down in value, the cost of oil goes up. Same thing happened, right? Right here, 2009, 2010. The dollar was already losing value, right? Dollar was losing value. Dollar gained value quickly, right? Dollar lost value, got down to 87 cents or 84 cents, right? Same price as 1970s. We ended up having $147 a barrel oil. Why? Because your dollar bought less oil. Really simple. We shipped all those dollars off to Saudi Arabia. Boom. Dollar went back up to $96 or 96 cents a dollar, right? 96, right? On the price, on the chart or whatever, right? This ended up having where the houses ended up the houses ended up going down in price, right? Because the dollar gained in value. All these mortgages fucking collapsed because everybody was underwater. All of a sudden, we went back down again. Oil again, 2011, right? Bring the chart back up again, right? This is kind of important shit here, right? This is where you have to understand what the deal is, right? 2011, where were we at? Look at that. Oil's at $128, $130 a fucking $102, $103 a barrel. See what I'm saying? Like, yo, so look, recessions are man-made, yes, but they're man-made through the printing of currency, right? And that's fucking important to understand, all right? It really is. This is something that, like, this Keynesian economics mentality of these fucking people, right? Do we actually need recessions? Is fucking dumb. I made this video before. I think this video actually explained it a little better, and I did it in a shorter time period, to be honest with you. I kind of defeated all this dude's points, right? Because he went through and he said, we need to take away credit. Like, what? Take away credit from citizens. So, you don't need, new business, which is the number one actual driver, which is reality. That's the number one driver of actual fucking, employment. Like, new employment numbers is new business. Start up a new business, you need employees. It's that simple. Businesses that are young and growing are the ones who hire the most amount of employees. It's that simple. So we're going to tie down people's credit. Because he thinks, this guy here, he legitimately thinks that people, because they're in too much fucking debt, right, from going out and buying dresses. And he'll show you where these motherfuckers live. They live in these Manhattan fucking areas, these metropolitan fucking areas and shit, right? They actually don't know how real people. And I get, like there's people out here putting campers and RVs and fucking putting boats and ATVs and Sea-Doos and shit on fucking credit, which you shouldn't do as an in general thing, right? Legit, just as an in general thing, never finance your toys, okay? But on the same point, they're not the reason that you have fucking recessions. The reason you have recessions is because once you steal all that oil, once you have all that oil costing all that money, you have to move fucking goods around at a higher price now. So now what you're doing went from, say oil went from $40 a barrel to 130 or 110 or whatever the case might be. You double the cost of shipping. And when you double the cost of fucking shipping, standing here in a problem of where you can't afford to continue to run your business the way you've been running, because you've been living on the margins for far too long. Places like retail establishments like J.C. Penney, why you had to retail? Shit, that's how this happened. Because these places, these giant businesses that were in this massive amount of debt from doing, well, what are they called? When they stand here and they buy like debt-based liability buyouts and shit, right? Where they stand here and they buy a business using its own assets to buy it. So basically, you leverage the business you're buying to buy the business. And you go, well, we'll make 1% off of sales or whatever the case might be. And they just collect that 1%. And that's what they do. They live on the margins. When that price goes up, that 1% disappears, and all of a sudden you're 3% in the red. You owe the bill for that. And you can't sell it for what it was worth, because there's all that debt surrounding it. Because there's a lien up against the business. What do? That's how you get a recession. That's how you end up in a fucking recession. Yes, it's because of debt, but it's not because of personal debt. Not because of debt of individuals. Because of debt of giant corporations, right, that are used to running on the margins. And all this currency being created that ends up causing inflation in assets. The fact of life, right? It just is what it is. And why we can't find it, right, and why you can't see it coming, here's the other part of this that I had to put up, right, is because of the fact that things like, leading and lagging indicators such as like gold and whatever the case, gold, silver, platinum, other assets like MBS products, such as housing, real estate, are all standing here being manipulated by central banks, right? Like, for instance, 75% of people who were supposed to lose their homes and, the financial collapse, who ended up, underwater, not being able to pay their bills, and they ended up getting foreclosed on, they're just staying in the fucking houses, and those houses are sitting at the Fed. All those MBS products are still on the Fed's books. They're just squatting, basically. Not paying shit for rent. Not paying a dime for the past 10, 15 years. Which in turn is keeping those houses off the market. Which in turn is keeping the pricing of housing high. Feel what I'm saying? Everything's being manipulated. When they have gold and silver standing here, you have, like 600-700 pieces of paper for every 1 ounce of actual silver or gold on the market, even platinum. How are you supposed to see a recession coming when assets aren't inflating? This is the problem. Legit, this is the fucking issue. We can see this stuff coming a mile away. And you can go, oh my God, gold's exploding. Why? Let's take a look. We look at it and go, well, there ain't no actual fucking speculation going on. We have a problem. Our currency's too inflated. And then you can move some of the currency off the books. Burn it, whatever you got to do. Get everything back under control. This is the issue, right? Not only that, you keep bringing in more people. While you're printing money, you're bringing in more people. But you're not printing money fast enough to, stand here and have wages go up. So basically, you have more people, too much currency. Like, I think there's a level where you legitimately, you can't have, there's not enough currency to support this many fucking people. I don't think you can do it. At least under one centrally located currency. Because you have to be able to have supply and demand inside of the labor sector. And this dude was talking about, you can get a Harvard MBA to come work as a junior analyst. I'm like, you think that's a good thing? You really think that's a good thing? I feel you, it's good for business, right? But on the same point, if you're on that level, everybody else is out of work. It is what it is. Anyway, man. Piece of Pnoid news. You know the situation. Like, share, and subscribe.